All right, again, what the panel wants to do is we want to give you just an unbiased overview of our experience to date with these performance-based total maintenance contracts. To start this out, what I'll do is I've got a slideshow. I think it's 12 slides total. Generally speaking, it's going to be about one contract in particular that I've been working on. It's the total maintenance contract of our Dallas County controlled access facilities, interstate highways, and US 75 in Dallas County. But we also have I-45 under separate contracts, so we'll also maybe occasionally mention some experiences on that particular contract as well. Okay. What I'd like to do with my slideshow, it's going to basically give a history of our maintenance, how maintenance has been performed in Dallas County, provide a brief contract overview of the performance-based contracts, talk about the management and the metrics of our performance-based maintenance contracts, talk about alternative contracting methodologies, discuss local office accountability, and then potential next steps in our contracting options. Okay. Previously, before performance-based total maintenance in the Dallas area, we had 5 area offices in Dallas County, and we also had 5 maintenance sections. That's 5 area engineers, 5 assistant area engineers, 5 maintenance section supervisors, etc. We handle maintenance with a combination of RMCs and in-house forces. Now, we've combined that into having just 1 area office, 1 area engineer, etc., and 4 maintenance sections. We've had a significant reduction of in-house maintenance forces in the metro area. Initially, we had over 100 FTEs on the 105 payroll, and now we have just over 30 divided in those 4 maintenance sections. Maintenance is handled through performance-based and bundle bid contracts. If you look at the map, all those routes in orange are the ones that are handled by the performance-based total maintenance. The on-system routes that are not highlighted are handled through what we call bundle bid contracts, and I'll discuss a little more on bundle bid contracts later. We have inspectors assigned to run various roadways. Work orders are then issued based on inspections of those roadways. Okay, on this slide, performance-based total maintenance contract, ours is a 2-year contract with 2 2-year optional extensions for a possible 6-year total. It's only for controlled access facilities in Dallas County. It addresses routine maintenance to maintain the system to a baseline condition. Our contract includes snow and ice removal, let in August of 14, work begin November 1st of 14. Includes all interstates in US 75. All other on-system roadways are handled again in the bundle bid contract. And there you can see when the project let, engineer's estimate was $21.8 million. Our contract was awarded to Amy Consulting USA. Contract bid amount was $19.2 million. Okay, as far as administration or management of the contract, the way the contract is set up, initially what you do is you perform a baseline assessment, which establishes the condition of your roadway system. We call that the baseline condition. The initial assessment is performed to evaluate the system right-of-way to right-of-way at or near the time of contract letting. Then you perform quarterly assessments. Assessments include both state and contractor personnel, and it's going to be discussed later, but when we do these quarterly assessments, the conditions score is compared to your baseline assessment, and a penalty is assessed or bonus based on the condition trend, and that impacts basically your next 3 estimate cycles. So if the resulting assessment indicates a decline in condition score, a deduction is applied, and it applies equally to the next 3 estimate cycles. Okay, then there's also key performance indicators. They are based on daily observations of roadway condition. Response time, it's a response time base, bonus, or penalty. Daily tracks all roadway items. We have Also, KPIs, which are deficiencies that are noted by the public, that is input by our Daltrans operators, and we also have road runners that issue callouts. Okay, then we have a monthly payment, which is a payment with a penalty or bonus based on KPIs and the penalty assessments based on the quarterly compared to baseline condition. Okay, the baseline assessment is performed within 30 days of your work authorization. It's somewhat subjective, and I really won't go any further than that into the issues that have stemmed from your condition assessment upon work authorization. And the reason it may be subjective, it's just basically a visual assessment performed by a set of raters from the maintenance division. Can be affected by weather, time of year, status of, let's say, events in the local area. Do you have a period of high vegetative growth in that particular period? Is it a rainy period? Have you just had snow and ice? Or, you know, any type of event that might generate an unforeseen amount of litter and debris. So there's a number of factors that can affect your baseline assessment, but it's the condition of that roadway. It's just a snapshot at that moment in time. Okay, and then you perform quarterly assessments. There's 4 performed per year, 3 every 4 months, except that the specifications allow 1 additional assessment if requested by either party. It subjectively measures deficiencies, and it has a significant financial penalty for non-performance. Again, and this applies to the next 3 or 4 months estimate cycle. Key performance indicators are daily assessments, measures, and impacts based on visual observations, typically, again, from the public, from your road runners, or from contractor personnel. It's burdensome to track, and I'll discuss a little more on that here shortly. And then the penalties that are noted on your KPIs, they're just applicable to 1 estimate cycle. Okay, just real quick, we went ahead and pulled just 2 quarterly assessments, and we compared them to the baseline assessment. The March assessment compared to the baseline, we had a decrease in element scores, which did naturally result in reduced payment. $33,000 in penalties for the main lanes, $23,000 for frontage roads. In July, we did another assessment, compared it to the baseline. Additional decrease in condition trends were noted, $38,000 in penalties for main lanes, $27,000 in penalty for the frontage roads. Okay. Looking at the next table there, 2015 trends for main lanes, you can see the pavements and bridges. These are element scores, traffic operations and roadside, and you can see the corresponding overall assessed penalties for March was $33,000 and July was $38,000 for main lanes. And then again, you need to be sure and understand that this penalty applies like that March assessment would have applied to the March, April, May, and June estimates. So 4 times that amount. That $33,000 penalty is assessed in each of the next 4 estimate cycles. Okay, so it's obvious that maybe our overall system condition may be deteriorating a little bit since the duration of this contract letting. So is the contract economical? I attempted to derive whether or not this was a contract that was more efficient, cheaper than a work unit based type contract, or whether it was actually more expensive. And it kind of got cloudy. And the reason it got cloudy is because you have a baseline frontage road and main lane payment. And roughly that's, I think, $440,000 per month for all the combined lane miles of frontage roads and main lanes in the Dallas district if there are no penalties assessed. Then you have KPIs and condition assessments, penalties that are assessed that affect your payment. But in addition to that, something that affects payment is third-party damage claims are reimbursable. And it puts a lot of burden on the contractor to go out when he finds, let's say, a guardrail or a sign that's been impacted. He has to pursue providing us the required information so that TxDOT can be successful on securing a reimbursement. That basically means that he has to go and get police reports. He has to document, get photographs, and all the necessary details, provide that to us, and then we pursue damage claim reimbursement. But so many of the impacts that happen in Dallas, there's just no record. You know, it's just basically an event where the third party is long gone and there are no records associated with that impact. So I basically took the reimbursable items completely out of the contract, acted like the contractor didn't perform any, and we didn't reimburse him for any. And if you look at what we paid, the far right column, total maintenance contract amount that we paid for each month since this project let, we've spent $4.2 million to date on this particular contract. Okay, and then what I did, I wanted to say, well, is this contract cheaper or more expensive than if it were a work unit based contract? So I took the number of work units that the total maintenance contractor performed, linear feet of striping, square yards of pavement, etc., times, let's say, statewide averages, and it's if it were a bundle bid type contract where we had work units. If we took the number of work units that he performed in a given month, for example, in November, times the unit prices, we would have only paid a bundle bid contractor or a work unit contractor only $1,520 for the work that Amy performed that particular month. So you can see they started out by not doing a whole lot of work. Things got a little bit better in February, where if we paid a work unit type contractor for the work that Amy performed, the number of units of work that Amy performed, we would only have paid a work unit contractor $3,400. Well, you can see as the months went by, our contractor got a lot more serious about performing work, and I'll mention more on that later. But the long and short of it is, basically November 14 through September 15, we basically would have paid a work unit type contractor only $2.4 million, but we actually paid Amy $4.2 million. So if you look at it in that regard, it does appear that work unit type contracts are a more economical option for us. Now the next two slides, I kind of covered some of this with Howard a while ago in the audience, and I'm going to skip them here because what I tried to do was say, okay, the contractor is able to secure reimbursement for some third-party impacts, so I'll account for that. And then what if I said, well, I'll just do another slide that accounts as if I paid the bundle bid, the performance-based contractor for all impacts. And like I say, I don't like, it just kind of clouded the water, and that's not realistic, so I'm going to skip those next two slides. I think it would just confuse you if I went over them. Okay. Other contracting options or methodologies. Okay, what we can do is pursue continuation of performing our maintenance need based on performance-based contracts, where the risk is actually transferred to the contractor. The contractor is evaluated on his performance. Somewhat easier to manage in a way in that there's a less number of individual contracts that we have to put together, develop, and administer, but there is also some aspects of the performance-based contracts that are more intensive to our personnel in that we have a lot of KPIs. Again, we'll discuss more on that later, that have to be monitored so that the resulting monthly payments can be calculated. It is a one-stop shop, and the question of accountability, the contractor is totally responsible for going out there and monitoring the condition of the system and scheduling his work such that his daily KPIs and his quarterly assessments don't result in significant deductions, but to date we found that it takes a lot of effort on our part to issue work authorizations and work instruction based on our daily road rides as well, simply because we're getting a lot of complaints from the traveling public regarding the condition of our system. So we've become very involved in issuing work instructions to this contractor on a daily basis. Okay, another option, again, was bundle bid type contracts. We have a blended risk profile. Payment risk is generally retained by TxDOT because we tell the contractor where to work and how many work units to perform, and we pay him by the unit. Okay, It's ease of management because that's just one contract that handles all of your own system route, and it's also, again, it's a one-stop shop. Talk about the maintenance section management. Another option would be just to have multiple RMC contracts where you have guardrail contracts, you have striping contracts, you have litter and debris contracts, etc. That is more cumbersome because it takes a lot of effort to put together gather quantities, put together PS&E, let those contracts administer them as they underway during the duration of the contract. Risks are retained by contract, and the management of that risk is handled at the AE level. In all cases, the district engineer remains 100% accountable to the administration of the results of the facilities in his area. I made myself a comment. The local district should have the latitude to address his needs by whatever methods he deems most effective for his area. Okay. As you could tell by the very, very low productivity, the low volume of work units performed when I was showing the monthly payouts, there's definitely a ramp-up period associated with these contractors. With these types of contracts, the contractors do not really know how much work effort it's going to take, and it's going to be different for any particular area. So you can expect there's going to be a ramp-up period. It's going to be different for any facility in any given geographic boundary. Okay. Snow and ice, which again was handled in our performance-based total maintenance contract. We have since, actually, I might mention, go ahead and we have change ordered that out. We felt like failure simply was not an option during a snow and ice event due to media scrutiny, the fact that we are ultimately accountable for our facilities. We never really knew if the contractor had sufficient resources until potentially it was too late. So we all made a determination it was probably advisable for us to go ahead and field change snow and ice out of our contract, and we elected to handle it with our in-house forces. Okay. Vegetation management, pavement markings are other areas where we feel like, generally speaking, it's public perception means a lot, and we've gotten a lot of complaints because of the condition of vegetation, the condition of our pavements, and the condition of our pavement markings. So we feel like that probably more so than anything, public perception. These contracts really, they haven't shared the department in just an especially favorable light. Okay. Probably won't say any more on those three items right now, but again, public perception, that's what the traveling public really sees, and we get a lot of complaints that stem from those particular work units. All right, our next steps, performance-based contracting evolution. We think it's imperative that the specification continues to refine. There's one slide behind, that's good. All right, we think that the baseline assessment may or may not be the best and most prudent way to govern administration on these contracts rather than just setting an overall acceptable condition score for the various roadway elements. We feel like we just need to establish minimum standards in pavements. Again, this is something that I'll touch on again later in our presentation. Probably pavements we feel like should not be in a performance-based total maintenance contract because there's simply too many risks associated with pavements. Okay. We feel like we need to work with industry. What does TxDOT want, and what does the industry feel like that they are able to do? How many assumed risks can we afford? How do contractors win, and how do they manage the contract, and what is the payment and disincentive mechanism? Okay, but the bottom line, once we enter into a contract, we have to hold that contractor accountable. Okay? District discretion, internal TxDOT accountability is clear. Ultimately, the public is going to be calling us. They're not going to be calling the contractor. DE must have discretion, and again, the district engineer is going to be held accountable by administration. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and black that out for now. Now, what we have is a list of 9 questions that have been prepared, and the panel's had an opportunity, I think, to prepare responses. So,
all right. Okay. First question. Like I said, we got some pre-planned stuff here, and this, I guess, is to all of the panelists. But What are a few keys to having a successful contract for the department and the contractors?
Okay, thank you, Brad. On each of these responses, I'm going to go first, and then if the other guys have anything to add or wish to elaborate, they're welcome to. But part of the reason I'm going first is because what I've done, I went to our contractor in Dallas, which we've had a number of, I think this has been a process by which we've both developed and grown a lot. So I wanted their input. So I went to Amy with these 9 questions. Our contractor's named Amy Consulting. I went to them with these 9 prepared questions last week, and I'd like to first read their response to each question, and then I'll read my response as well before I give the other panel members an opportunity for their input. Okay, so the question was, what are a few keys to having a successful contract for the department and contractor? What the contractor's response is, and again, just bear with me, I'm going to read it, and it's fairly lengthy. The department needs to be confident that the contractor understands the specification requirements and that these requirements must be accurately represented in the bid documents. The contractor must have every opportunity to price the contract accurately. To do this, ambiguities and contradictions in the specification need to be eliminated. A pre-bid meeting and provisions to provide for historical data, such as volume of trash collected, linear feet of guardrail replaced, etc., will assist the contractor in understanding the local issues and pricing responsibility accordingly. Both parties need to be entirely committed to the contractor's success, which can't be achieved if their goals are not aligned. The contractor needs to see the roadways from TxDOT's perspective as well as that from the traveling public. The department needs to be able to trust the contractor that he will act with integrity as if they are an extension of the department. There needs to be an appreciation for the different challenges that a contractor faces, such as the uncertainty over contract duration and in some cases a learning curve about the local area. In addition, the contractor can't be expected to fund non-routine maintenance or repair long-standing legacy pre-existing defects through performance-based maintenance contracts. And then I have my response before I give these other guys an opportunity to elaborate. I said my response is the contractor has to have a clear understanding of the department's expectations, which must be accurately identified in the bid documents. The contractor must prosecute the work promptly with limited reliance on subcontractor availability. For performance-based total maintenance contracts, the contractor must be proactive, not reactive, in identifying work to be performed. Okay, others?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Can y'all hear me? Oh, here we go. There's a lot of both of what Michael said from his response and from the contractor's comments that ring true. And a lot of these came through at the very beginning of this program, well, the change in this program in 2013 from its original days and variety of different contracts back from starting in the Waco district in '99 and Houston district and even in the Austin district. There's a variety of different types of contracts. But to answer the question point blank is reality. Michael touched on one of the comments from the contractor was that we need to be confident that they're reading the contract documents and performing or understanding what those contract documents say. And that is absolute true. They need to read it. They read it. They bid it. So then, therefore, they must perform to meet what the requirements of that is. And that, I think, is one of the biggest part to having a successful contract. And aside from that, there's nothing that's perfect. And so our partnering program is a big incentive or mechanism to make these things successful. I think those two key factors are a big part of the program success.
Just to say a few more words about that. Obviously, open communication between TxDOT and the contractor is one of the biggest keys that I can come up with. And along with that, the relationship that we have with the contractor. We may not be there yet, but we've got to get to the point where it's not us versus them. we're working together because we all have the common goal of a safe, reliable, and clean roadway, and the traveling public won't be calling us complaining about the roadway. One thing I always try to stress to the contractor is, you know, I want them to take ownership of the road also. You know, I shouldn't have to tell them and point everything out to them. They should be doing some of that stuff on their own. So obviously, if we see something, we're going to let them know about it. But I want to get to the point, and maybe we're a long ways from that, I don't know, but I'd like to get to the point where I don't have to tell the contractor to do anything, you know, where he's out there doing it on his own. And that to me would be the nirvana, if you want to call it that. So.
And I agree with them that a clear spec is the basis for everything here, but in order to have success, TxDOT really has to step up and enforce that spec while balancing the partnership, because there's a lot, you can't write a spec to cover everything. So it's got to be firm enough we can enforce, but at the same time, TxDOT's got to be willing enough to see that all things don't fit in that spec and be willing to partner with the contractor.
Okay, thank you. All right, question number 2. We got, what are the shared roles you see for TxDOT and the contractor in implementation of a successful quality program?
Okay, again, let me start out with the contractor's response. The contractor states the computerized maintenance management system, CMMS, is a vital quality tool for both the department and the contractor in logging deficiencies and tracking to a point of completion. Both parties should make use of it as a source of truth about what has happened on the network. The investment in the design and development of a fit-for-purpose CMMS that is in place from day one is critical to success. TxDOT input into the review and inspection of the work is vital. That oversight isn't to punish, but to educate the contractor. The contractor should be advised of issues relating to the quality of its work in a timely fashion so that potential quality or safety concerns can be addressed, so that the contractor can be better able to match the department's expectations going forwards. Contractor also states that the contractor must accept responsibility for the quality of its work, but the department cannot expect the contractor to work in exactly the same way as the department personnel might have done previously. As the relationship between the department and the contractor matures, the department can adopt a lighter touch auditing and quality control approach in monitoring their work. Okay, my response to the question, the contractor must have a clear understanding of baseline and quarterly assessments. Opportunities for brief education of element ratings using the system assessment would be very beneficial. KPI entries begin on day one of the contracts. There is no grace period, so that the contract must be staffed and equipped to begin operations immediately. But department personnel should work with the contractor to ensure that the contractor is aware of the more common routine maintenance issues that may be encountered to get his operation started off right. Local department personnel are aware of work histories that have been set on past contracts that were appropriate to address our needs.
Just to let you know, all these newer contracts have what is required, similar to all of the department's design build and CDA type program contracts, where a quality management system has to be established, a quality management plan. So in accordance with ISO 9001, and to answer that part of this question, the fact is that a quality plan is more than a manual or more than a standard operating procedure. And the success of that quality and the implementation of that quality into the project is that implementation. And then the responsible party is auditing it, and not to find deficiencies that can be thrown at either party, but to find deficiencies or opportunities for improvement so that the quality program begins. So to have that continuous improvement. How many in here have been as far back as when you heard it first time of continuous improvement back in the early 90s? That's what we're talking about. I think that's the success in this type program, that implementation, audit for opportunities for improvement and reinvesting in that quality program for continuous improvement?
Well, I think my response to this question is very similar to the first question, so hopefully I won't be saying this every time. But, you know, I think the contractor, they need to be out there on the road, evaluating the road ahead of time, and kind of telling TxDOT, hey, I think this needs to be done, and not just waiting for us, sitting back waiting for us to tell them. So I think the shared role that we could do is just of evaluating the system that's out there and working as a team to come up with the improvements that we think are needed, both from our side and from the contractor side, and then sit down and work those out and see how we're going to get all that done. So I think it just takes more of a shared role overall in the evaluation and the maintenance of the roadway itself. So,
in my view, the shared roles for success, it starts with the bidding documents. The contractor and TxDOT both have a role in getting a fair bid out there to begin the contract. We're required to give them a clear specification and bidding documents, and they should take time to study the documents, study the road, do their homework, and give us a fair bid that could eliminate a lot of issues during the contract if they don't have adequate money to cover the cost. So to me, it starts with the bidding process of both participating. And then I go back to what Tony said too, during the job, we both have the roles of ownership of the road. Regardless, we're still responsible, and the public's going to look at TxDOT. But on our contract, we've successfully kind of put the public onto the contractor. The public and the local law enforcement, they call the contractor directly. So it kind of gets cloudy to the public, but ultimately both of us are sharing that ownership of the road.
All right. Moving on to the next question. PBMC has grown significantly over the past 10 years in Texas and the U.S. What are some of the keys that will drive more states and toll agencies to utilize this approach?
Okay, starting out with the contractor's response. The current Texas performance-based maintenance contract model is less than 2 years old and largely experimental. As we start to hear more success stories and improve the specifications, more agencies will seek to use it. Where possible, through performance-based maintenance contracts will follow. Where possible, though, these contracts will follow a best value and long-term contract approach. A performance-based maintenance contract incorporates all routine maintenance requirements of a roadway under one umbrella, including emergency response and inspections. This reduces administration of the work by the department significantly, which helps the department, which are under increasing pressure to do more with less, reducing their liabilities and increasing overall efficiency. The private sector is well poised to operate under an outcome-based contract model like a performance-based maintenance contract, as contractors have a continuous improvement mindset and can typically adopt new technologies and innovation more easily than can the public sector. Okay, then the TxDOT response for me was the letting of all performance-based maintenance contracts under an unproven specification at a time when this process is still in its infancy has caused this approach to be shed in a very bad light. The specification in its current format is clearly flawed. Contractors, by and large, are unfamiliar with performance-based total maintenance. The Dallas experience to date has not been especially positive. However, eventually, the above issues can be resolved. It is our opinion that the contract award be through procurements, much like CDAs, based mostly on low bid, but other factors in the selection of a successful contractor should be things such as contractor qualifications, past performance history, his proposal of his work plan, his proposed innovations, etc. Like other procurement contracts, selection based on low bid alone does not seem advisable on future contracts.
I guess my response would be performance. There's a lot of this that kind of interacts with each other, but the success to this is the performance and the relaying of that performance to other agencies. I've had contacts from other states, Georgia, Florida, Virginia, South Carolina, on how things are going, and I'm trying to be very positive about how it is going. But I'm bluntly being honest with not everything's perfect, and we don't expect it to be. So I think the way that other agencies are going to go on with this type of delivery method is whether or not it's successful, whether or not they hear it's being successful. It has been used in other states for long periods of time. They think it's successful the way they do it. It's not Texas. It's not the roadways that we have, but we're all learning.
Just to let y'all know, in Waco, we did our first total maintenance contract back in 1999, so we've been doing this for 15, 16 years now. I will say that all of our contracts have been under the old spec. We are just getting into the process of renewing our total maintenance contract probably later this fall or first part of next year. So we have not had any experience under the new total maintenance spec. So all of my experience and what I'm telling you is based on our past experience, which overall has been good. Obviously, we've had our issues with the contractor just like everybody else, but so far it's been pretty good. Kind of to answer this question, what I think is going to happen over the next 10 years or so. Obviously, TxDOT's probably just like every other state agency across the nation. You're probably losing a bunch of employees, losing a bunch of FTEs, but they're still asking you to maintain the same amount of roadway or more. We're building new roadways all the time, also building more lanes, expanding those roadways that we do have. So they're asking you to take care of more lane miles with less people. Obviously, we can't do that in-house, so we have to look at contracting some of that out. So in my estimation, that's going to be one of the driving factors to pushing these performance-based maintenance contracts, or just maintenance contracts in general. But I think this would be a good idea on some roadways.
And I kind of agree with Tony on that too. The limited resources that we have to maintain our entire system are just continuing to get taxed as we try to put the extra effort on the major corridors that we have. And when you look at it, you see your crews working on the major corridors way too much and neglecting the rest of the system. The good thing about these contracts is you can put basically another maintenance section on a major corridor and let your crews handle the rest of the system a lot more efficiently. So I think more agencies are going to realize that as our traffic increases and congestion increases, that this is a tool to get extra maintenance on the high volume roadways and allow our limited resources to get back on the rest of the system and take care of everything.
Okay, that may lead in a little bit to the next question. Says, have you been able to use resources to meet needs on other roadways since these contracts started?
Okay, on this response, I don't, of course, this is directed to the department. I don't have a response from the contracting industry, but TxDOT's position on this in Dallas County in particular, all of our routine maintenance in Dallas County is performed by contract. We have, again, what is called the bundle bid contract to address work on roadways that are not included in the performance-based contract. Bundle bid contracts have items and anticipated quantities for all work that might be expected to be needed on roadways that are included in that contract. So again, all work in Dallas County is performed by contract. It's either going to be the performance-based or the bundle bid.
I'll address this in kind of a different way, just to let you know. I think probably talked about this last year, the year before. The concept of this type of contract was that it was total maintenance and the contractor is going to perform everything, and therefore the oversight on our part was going to be minimal. It'd be a one-person job, more or less. Didn't work out that way. Just FYI, there's, I think actually every one of the contracts needed more than one, and as Michael has said, one of the reasons for that is we wanted to hold accountability to the contractor in tracking their performance under the key performance indicator process. And so in doing that, we had two things. We didn't really go out and start searching for stuff, but when it came in from the public or any other agency, we had to put it on the sheet and then go check to see whether it was done. So long story short, the resources in implementation weren't what they were expected to be. Some of the districts were able to reassign resources to go to other areas and do some other work, like Terry has said, and Michael, but it's oversight is what I'm talking about.
Well, in Waco, you know, the I-35 corridor, it covers 3 maintenance sections. So obviously in the past 15 years, we've not had to have those guys maintaining I-35, so we get to use those resources in other places. That being said, you know, we have stressed to our maintenance supervisors along that corridor in emergency situations, snow and ice, if there's a really bad accident or something, if we need some help with traffic control and our contractor can't handle it or get there quick enough, you know, we let our maintenance supervisors know it's still our road. We do expect them to respond if called, but obviously it's a great benefit and a relief to us to not have to be out there every day maintaining that roadway. That being said, you know, too, our contract budget obviously took a big hit when we started sending out these total maintenance contracts. The last one was a 5-year contract that went for about just under $20 million, so $4 to $5 million a year in our 144 budget that we couldn't use for other contracts. So, you know, I mean, it's kind of a give and take on that, but overall, I think we've had a pretty good experience in Waco.
And as far as use of resources, my I-45 counties, they pretty well experience 2 to 3 call-outs per month each for, you know, 4 to 6 hours for accidents or spills or something. And they like these contracts because that's 2 to 3 days or nights that they're not getting called out, that they're able to keep on their pavement repair schedule for the other roads. And so, I mean, just management of the resources, they can stay on schedule because they don't have the unknown. The I-45 in each of the county, like I said, get 2 to 3 call-outs. And for the rest of the county, they typically get probably 1 call-out a month. So by going to this contract, we've reduced call-outs from about 4 to 1 a month on our guys. So they appreciate that, and they can get more done.
Okay. Next question we got is, are you seeing a challenge for contractors to find and train maintenance personnel?
Okay, what the contractor's response was on this: when contractors approach a maintenance contract with a heavy reliance on a construction partner, there is an increased risk that they will find the wrong type of people to manage and deliver the work. What they're talking about here, again, this is Amy Consulting that got our contract. They are from the United Kingdom, and they're basically just a consultation management type firm. They partnered with Weber, and Weber being a construction company, they found it a little bit difficulty for them to transform into more of a maintenance roles and responsibilities. If they realize that the job skills needed are totally different and they have sufficient financial resources to pay market rates, then there generally is not a problem finding and training the right personnel. Training not only needs to focus on how to do the work, but also how to do the work safely. Okay, and then my response on that: total maintenance differs greatly from construction contracts or even maintenance contracts where there are work units with prices furnished for work that is identified and directed by the department personnel. For a performance-based total maintenance contract to be effective, the contractor must staff the project with personnel that identify work to be performed. They must be proactive. If they are in a reactive mode, they quickly get behind the curve and payment deductions result. Laborers able to perform the work are generally available, although in a limited quantity in today's market. But the mindset of management to be in a proactive role, I believe, is the issue in the early stages of the contract.
I guess my answer to this is there's been some contracts where there is they have found some personnel that have done previous maintenance. Bryan contract, Houston contract. Sometimes it's maintenance that they performed, like Amy in the UK, and don't know what it's like here in Texas to do maintenance. It's completely different. One of the big things that Mike and I always talk about is they come over and say, there is no way I ever thought that there was litter this much on the highway. And that was one of the big things that it took a long time for them to get used to, and I'm not sure they're there yet. But flat-out answer is yes, they do have a problem, and I've seen other things where it really shows how much our maintenance personnel do, because you can go down a roadway and see one of the contractors doing something and you shake your head that it's just amazing that they would allow them to be doing that. Won't go into detail, but there's a lot that needs to be learned from people that just get put into it. The ramp up is evident on there, but there's definitely a need.
Well, I know you're not going into detail, wasn't in the Waco district, so it's okay. No, I was just going to say Waco itself, we have a lot of construction going on I-35, so I think all of the contractors, including our maintenance contractor, are having difficulty keeping employees just because there's such a high demand for construction type, maintenance type employees in the area. And yes, I do wonder, sometimes I see guys out on the side of the road, I wonder if they just maybe picked that guy up on the street corner that morning and put him in a truck and said, go out on I-35, because he's running out in the middle of traffic trying to pick up a piece of tire rubber or something like that. Well, I appreciate the effort, but good grief, guy, you're going to get killed, and we don't want that. But so I do wonder often about how much training those guys are getting.
And like John said, and Brian, the contractor, hired one of my retired maintenance supervisors. So I think that contract got off to a good start because they were able to find management that knew how to maintain a road. But that maintenance supervisor has expressed to me that it is very difficult to build a crew in 90 days that can maintain an interstate highway. I don't know how many times he's told me how much he appreciates the TxDOT maintenance sections because of the knowledge that we have built into our sections and that we continually pass it down. That he was just overly shocked at how much effort it took on his part to build a crew from scratch. So, and you got to remember, these contracts are not a traditional contract where a contractor takes a crew and moves it one project to another. This contract is one where when they get the contract, they got about 90 days to find an entire crew that's going to be on that contract for 2, 4, 6 years. So it's kind of not the same as just traditional project.
Okay, so in the interest of time here, we're going to kind of discontinue the planned questions that we had for the panel. I want to open it up to the audience. We've got a few minutes left for questions, so don't everybody speak up at once, but go ahead and ask your questions.
Okay, the question was, in the Dallas contract, we eliminated by change order snow and ice from our contract, and she's asking how, with our limited staff, do we handle snow and ice response. And the 100-plus personnel that we did have in Dallas County, we didn't eliminate those positions. We basically just put them to work in the adjacent outlying, more rural counties, so we still have those personnel. And in the district snow and ice plan, those employees are required to respond back to the Dallas County section. So we still have the same resources that we did prior to the performance-based total maintenance contract available to us.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I've got a two-part question, both for Michael and Tony, on both the Dallas County contract and the Waco contracts over the years. What is the most significant work performed on pavements or anticipated to be performed on pavements? And what is the average lane mile per year cost of these contracts? Thank you.
Okay,
Yes, the math question. Uh-oh.
I'm sorry, Tony. The first question was, what is the most significant work performed on the pavement itself?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The most significant work performed on the pavement itself would be the full-depth concrete pavement repairs.
In Waco, we do some full-depth concrete pavement repairs, and also we've done some bridge deck full-depth repairs where we've had some failure punch-outs, that kind of thing. That's probably the most significant type work we've done with our contract.
Okay, and then the next question was, what is the bid price, I think, per lane mile for main lanes and frontage roads?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't know.
In Waco, I believe our, I'll try to remember this right, I think our main lanes is $2,800 a mile, and I want to say the frontage roads are about 1,000 or 1,500 a lane mile, but there's 2 road beds for the, I think it's $1,000 a lane mile, because I think they get paid $4,800 a mile if you count all 3 road beds. They get 1 payment for center line and 1 for each frontage road.
Okay, is Noel in our group, or David Moran from Dallas here? No, I think our numbers were $1,800 for the main lanes and $1,600 per mile on the frontage roads, but I would have to check to confirm. Yes.
Okay, I think we had a question right here.
Hi, so I heard that the contractor asked about trending on what you paid for and quantity. Do you provide them any asset information, so if like you have an asset management system, and if you do, or if you don't problem solve that, that would be good, or that's not good?
I'm not positive I caught all that. Are you talking prior to bidding at an asset management tool that we have that's utilized, yeah, that's utilized in-house prior to bidding? We don't necessarily have an asset management tool. I mean, what we'll give them, basically, we'll give them MERS report information. We'll give them all of our costing information, our contracts that we have had active in previous years with the corresponding costs for the various work units in years past. That's all, that I think is about all that we provided to the contractor prior to his bidding. We gave them pavement scores, trends for the last 3 or 4 years. I had that data. They asked for it, pavement PMAS score data from the last 3 years or 4 years, I can't recall which. I think that's about it.
There was a little bit of data that we did give them. Can you hear me?
There it
Okay.
goes.
The asset issue was discussed at the very beginning. And it is particular from the UK experience that they had full access to all assets. And the way that they do total maintenance in the UK is completely different than what we're doing here. But they had all the assets available there. We didn't have it. We did give them, like Michael said, the costs that we had in the last 3 years. One of the issues that we would love to fix is the amount of time that the contractors have to review the project and the location and determine the asset condition for themselves, go into the district and look at the past plans to look at what was built there before and determine those asset conditions themselves. And we just haven't gotten there yet as this program has been laid out. We've tried, I think Terry mentioned this, we've tried as best we can to give them enough time by advertising this project, or at least letting them know as far in advance as we could so they could go look at it and get all the data, and then give them 3 months to actually execute once they were awarded.
Okay, so I think that's going to about wrap up our session. Appreciate you guys going through this. Good information for everybody. Hope everybody learned something. Let's give our panelists a round of applause.
Wrapped up the panel, not the session.